Hi friends, I have started the first book that I'm going to be reading for this video, which is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This book has been on my TBR for so long. In fact, I think I added it to my 23 books I want to read in 2023 list. Actually, no, just kidding. I did not, but it has been on my fall TBR for at least 3 years now. So I'm excited that I'm finally getting around to picking it up because I've been anticipating this book for so long. I feel like everyone that reads it generally really likes it and rates it really highly. And it also sounds like just my kind of book. So I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy it. This book follows a group of friends in then and now timelines. In the past, we see them in college together and kind of how the friend group came to be. Also, we're following the events surrounding the murder of one of their friends in the friend group. And then in the present timeline, it is 10 years later at their 10-year college reunion, and a lot of secrets surrounding the murder of their friend are kind of coming to light. I'm only a few pages in and we just got introduced to all the characters in the friend group, and sometimes my critique of books that have a big cast of characters is that I get really confused on who is who, and I feel like it kind of trips me up and takes away from my enjoyment of the story because I devote a lot of my brain energy and efforts to keeping track of everyone as opposed to just like enjoying the story. But already in a short amount of time, I feel like I know these characters so well. They all have really distinct characteristics about them that make them so distinguishable from one another, and I feel like I'm already connected and invested in them as well. It's really interesting to see the then and now because in the past we see the dynamic of the friend group was one way, and then in the present things are kind of different. So I'm interested to see where the shift took place and like how certain things came to be. I'm already invested, I'm already hooked, the story's already fast-paced. I'm excited to keep reading and let you guys know my thoughts along the way. Our main character in this book, I feel like she's not supposed to be a likable character. Like, you're not really supposed to root for her. I don't know, I'm kind of relating to her a little bit, and I really do have so much sympathy for her because she's just been through all these kind of traumatic experiences, and it makes me feel so seen because she's just felt like her whole life she's had to put in double the work and still is not even guaranteed the results she wants. And now she's getting to college and is around all these privileged people and seeing how easily things come to them without even having to work for it. So it just builds this rage inside of her, and I can relate to that. Like, I really have so much sympathy for the way she feels, even though I don't think she's supposed to be a good character necessarily. I don't know, we'll have to see the more I read. Obviously I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but that is just how I'm feeling about our main character right now, because in thinking about people talking about this book, I feel like a lot of people say that they just don't like the main character at all and she was kind of insufferable, but I'm not feeling that way towards her at the moment. Also, one thing I wanted to talk about is the way the past timeline in here is done is really different. It's not sequential. It like jumps from different years, different semesters. So it kind of confuses me on like, does this person know that this happened? Has this happened yet? But I feel like all the puzzle pieces are just gonna come together and fit into place. And I'm just trying not to read too much into it. I feel like we're getting information as we need it. I'm liking it so far a lot. It is very fast paced. Most of the chapters are just a few pages long, so it makes me want to just keep reading and keep reading. This book is really hard to put down, so I'm liking it a lot. Hi guys, I have finished In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, and I'm here to give you my final thoughts. I liked this book a lot overall. I thought the ending was really good. I did end up guessing the big part of the reveal at the end. Not that it was like obvious or anything. I didn't guess it until right up at the point where it was about to reveal everything. It was kind of more like process of elimination. You can just put the pieces together. But I still thought it was a great ending. There was another part of the reveal that I did not guess that I really liked how it was done. One thing I really like about this book is that it's kind of cyclical, like you see history kind of repeat itself, but I promise that's not a spoiler because it's not in like a super obvious way. So I really liked that part of the book. I was never obsessed with this book. Like, I never got super invested. I did really like some of the conversations about college. I feel like oftentimes college is so romanticized, especially in dark academia, and I thought there were good conversations in this book about how that's not always the case for everyone, and college can be like a weird time for some people where you're not a child anymore, but you're still not quite an adult, and you have this newfound freedom. But it's just a weird place being with a lot of like-minded people, but then you're also seeing people so different from you, and it's just a crazy learning experience. And there was a quote in here about how college is a time where like everything feels heightened and all your emotions just feel to the extreme, and I related to that so much. So I liked those discussions in here. I've had a few days to sit with my rating because I wasn't sure what I wanted to rate this book. It's definitely more than a 4-star, but I never got that 5-star feeling. I was never obsessed with the book, but I always thought it was really good the whole time. It was very fast paced and I would highly recommend it. So I think I've settled on a 4.25 stars. I thought it was a really good dark academia. It felt like a different take on a dark academia too. It didn't feel like a repeat of all the other dark academias I've read, but it still had those classic dark academia elements that I love. I am on to the next book that I'm reading for this video, which is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. I was kind of scared going into this book because it's again about a group of friends. We get then and now timelines, and in the past timeline we're following them at the school they went to 10 years ago, which this school is a theater school, but it's specifically a Shakespeare theater school. So all they study, all they focus on, all the plays that they perform are Shakespeare plays. And everyone says that there's lots of Shakespeare references throughout this, but people are kind of split on whether or not that impacts your reading experience. I feel like half of people say that you don't need to understand the Shakespeare to get the full effect of this book, and it doesn't matter if you know Shakespeare well or not. But then the other half of people I've heard say that they felt like it really impacted their reading experience not knowing Shakespeare, and it got confusing, and there's so many references to Shakespeare that they couldn't really see past it to just enjoy the story for what it was. So I was kind of nervous because I don't know a lot about Shakespeare at all. Reading his stuff honestly feels like reading a foreign language sometimes, so I was afraid this book might be confusing and a lot of it would go over my head, but I definitely wanted to give it a shot because I do hear a lot of good things about it. So I'm just starting out, but so far the Shakespeare did take me a little bit of an adjustment period to get used to, because the students will just randomly quote Shakespeare to one another. I feel like it's their version of, in present day, us like using internet slang. That's kind of the comparison I'm drawing between. And at first it was confusing because, like I said, Shakespeare feels like reading a foreign language to me. I don't understand it for the most part, but now I feel like I can just kind of like skim over it and I get the gist, and there's enough context clues to where I'm not confused and I understand what's going on still. We'll see by the end of the story if I feel the same way, but right now I feel like it is not impacting my reading experience that much, although it did take some getting used to. Now I just feel like it's kind of weird that they're just randomly quoting Shakespeare to one another, but I guess if you're going to a school specifically for Shakespeare, then you really have to love it, and they're like obsessed to where it's normal for them to quote it to one another. But like I said, this one is then and now timelines. We don't really know what happened in the past, but we're getting the perspective of our main character Oliver, who was a student, and in the present he's like telling someone the story of what happened when they were at this school. It's kind of alluding to something dark and something bad happening, so I'm assuming there is a murder, but I just don't know like the who, what, how, why, or when of anything. Sure, we're gonna figure that out along the way, but just wanted to give my initial impressions, and I will keep reading and let you guys know how I'm liking it. Just a quick update to say that I am loving this book so much. I am obsessed. I'm so invested in the characters and the story and what's gonna happen. The ending is definitely gonna be make or break and the deciding factor in what I end up rating this book, but right now I'm getting the 5-star feeling. Hi guys, I have finished If We Were Villains by ML Rio, so I'm here with my final thoughts. I think I talked about in one of my last updates how my rating was going to kind of hinge upon how I felt about the ending. So I liked the ending, I thought it was good, but I felt like it could have gone one step further and just had a little more depth, but it was still really good. So I'm going to give this book 4.5 stars. I did get the 5-star feeling sometimes, but I think I'm just so picky about endings, and that's just a me thing. Like 9 times out of 10 I'm a little bit let down by the ending of books. That's why I don't give out a lot of 5 stars, but 4.5 stars obviously is still a really great rating, and I loved this book and would highly recommend it. I can definitely see why this book gets compared so much to The Secret History. It felt very similar, but at the same time it didn't feel like a copy paste, which I think is pretty hard to do. This felt unique in its own ways, and to me, as much as I love The Secret History, I did have not issues, but there were things that I wish were a little bit different about it. Like I felt like The Secret History was just so slow paced, and this book was really fast paced. And in The Secret History, I didn't love how it tells you up front what happens, like what the big reveal is. It tells you right off the bat, so it kind of eliminates the element of suspense, whereas in this book we don't know anything, and the whole time I was on the edge of my seat waiting for the other shoe to drop because they're like different things that we're trying to figure out, and I thought it was really good. In terms of the Shakespeare aspect of this book, I personally don't think you need to know a single thing about Shakespeare to appreciate this book. When there are Shakespeare passages, like I mentioned, to me Shakespeare feels like a foreign language, so I would just skim over it and use context clues, and I still completely understood and got the gist. And if there were any passages where I wanted to know a little bit more about the meaning of, I would just Google it or go on Reddit, and I completely understood after like 2 minutes of reading. I think if you do know Shakespeare really well, that this book will have even more of an impact on you, but I don't think it took anything away because I don't have an extensive knowledge of Shakespeare. So that's my thoughts on that. You're gonna hear mixed things on that, but I feel like you just kind of have to read it for yourself to see, but that's just my personal opinion. I loved it and would highly recommend. I thought it was dark, twisty, suspenseful, fast-paced, thrilling, and really good. I've started the third book that I am reading for this vlog, which is Babel by R.F. Kuang, and going into this I knew very little. I knew it was light fantasy, that it dealt with translation and languages, and that there was really good commentary in here, but aside from the themes I didn't really know much about like the characters or the actual storyline. So right now we're following our main character named Robin. He is a young Chinese boy, and this professor comes over from England and kind of brings him back with him, forms this arrangement with him where he's going to be his guardian, put a roof over his head, give him 3 meals a day in exchange for Robin studying really hard, learning multiple languages in the hopes that he's going to go study at Oxford one day at this very elite translation school where the professor teaches linguistics. I feel like a lot of times in dark academia the main character is supposed to be morally gray and more unlikable, but I'm really liking Robin. I feel like he's a really kind-hearted, good character that you want to root for, so I'm hoping something doesn't happen to him that kind of flips that and makes him more unlikable. But so far I'm really enjoying his development and his journey, and I'm excited to see where the story's gonna go. Hi guys, I finally made a bit of a dent in Babel. It is very slow paced, so it's a little slow going, but I'm really liking it so far. It is very much a historical fantasy. I feel like I'm getting a really great history lesson out of this. There's so much great commentary on colonialism and race, and I love learning about all the linguistics and the etymology of words. That to me is just so fascinating. I love learning about how things kind of have gotten lost in translation. It is just so interesting to me. This book also low-key, very low-key reminds me of Harry Potter, just because of the classes, the professors, the magic. There's an unexpected little found family in the friend group in this, and I love some of the side characters. I think one of my only things I wish was a bit different about this book is I wish we were getting some of the perspectives from the side characters in addition to Robin's perspective. I feel like that would just add so much more depth to the story.
To something written and silent. the distorted translation gave voices to the written.
Hi friends, I wanted to film an update to let you guys know that I have switched over to listening to this book on audio just because it is so long, and as much as I would love to just forget all my responsibilities and sit down and read this book all day, I do have stuff to do. So I was like, I need to find the audio so I can listen to it while I'm getting my stuff done and get through it more quickly, because this book is just a brick, but it is a beautiful brick, and the audio is, I think, enhancing my reading experience. It's making it even better because a lot of this book is foreign words, so I kind of trip over the pronunciation of some of them, and being able to hear it spoken, I feel just makes my reading experience that much better, and I'm loving it. It's blowing my mind how well written this book is. The amount of research and thought that had to go into crafting this book, it is just a masterpiece. The blurb on the front says a masterpiece, and I'm like, that sums it up. This book is truly a masterpiece, and I'm loving the audio. I'm kind of going back and forth in tandem, switching from audio to reading it physically, and I'm loving reading it both ways. It is just so good. Hi guys, I've never filmed in this spot before, so the lighting is not the best, but I kind of wanted to like switch up the location. I finished this book, Fable, after listening to it on audio and reading it. I feel like you could pronounce it both ways, but I finished this book a few days ago. I've had a little bit to sit with my final thoughts, so I wanted to close out this video by sharing them. This book, I feel like I've been saying, it is very slow paced, but I never felt like it was boring. I felt like every single page had a purpose and added value to the story. Up until the last 100 pages, I did start to feel like it was dragging a little bit, and I was getting a little bit bored just because the story got kind of repetitive, and I was like, okay, I can see where this is going. I'm ready for it to just wrap up and know how everything's gonna actually end. But it did have a really great ending. It was very emotional. It did make me cry, but I thought it was fitting for the story, and I thought it was a really good ending. I feel like I have so much appreciation for this book and for R.F. Kuang. Like, so much research and thought had to have gone into crafting this book, and I truly think of it as like a masterpiece and objectively just some of the best writing and one of the best stories I've ever read. That being said though, I never personally had an attachment to anything about the book. Like, I never felt like, oh, I'm getting the 5-star feeling, I'm loving this, I'm having such an enjoyable time reading this book. I just more so appreciated it and all the things I was learning from it. So this book is not a 5-star for me, but I don't think I can give it a rating lower than 4.5 stars, so that's what I've settled on. It was a great book. I learned so much. The commentary was amazing. I was looking at some of the reviews on Goodreads, and some of the negative reviews I saw were in criticism of the commentary. They felt like you could hear the author's voice a little too much, and they felt like she just kind of spelled out some things instead of assuming that the reader is smart enough to figure it out on their own, which I can see that point of view. I don't know, I feel like the point of the novel was for the commentary to be in your face, to just really make the point stick, but it did feel like more of a really cool history lesson than a book that I'm like obsessed with and that I consider a new favorite that I would give 5 stars to. But still, really great, really good, amazing writing, and a 4.5 star book. So this was a great reading vlog. I rated all the books that I read very highly. I enjoyed all of them and would recommend them all. I love reading dark academia this time of year. I feel like it's so fitting for fall going into winter, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you plan to, and if you read them, what your thoughts on them are, or if you have any other dark academias you recommend. Please let me know, because I do want to read more before the fall and winter seasons are over. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys.